Today we'll try to see the further part of environment what we have dealt in my previous class. So the extension part is your plastic waste management rules 2016. In my previous lecture I told you that whatever we have rules was pertains to year 2011 and that was applicable to your municipal areas only, and it further extended to the other areas also, like village areas, like whatever areas that comes under the state and union authority. So similarly we can see plastic waste management rules 2016 is also applicable to the other areas also apart from your municipal areas.
Yes, sir.
Correct? So Ministry of Environment and Forest has notified the plastic waste management rules 2016 replacing the earliest rules of 2011. Similarly here whatever we have solid waste management rules.
Yes.
The key features of your plastic waste management rules 2016 is increase minimum thickness of plastic carry bags from 40 to 50 microns and stipulate minimum thickness of 50 microns for plastic sheets. Why it has done? Means whatever we have the carry bags in the form of 40 microns, it must increase to the 50 microns, because if thickness is small it creates a very pollutant in environment. So in order to create next responsibility or next role, it has been increased from 40 microns to 15 microns. There is a reason behind it. I'll tell you in subsequent in this module itself. The first we try to increase thickness of plastic carry bags from 40 to 50 microns, and second one is that at least minimum thickness of 15 microns of plastic sheets. There must be a 50 microns for plastic sheets. What is the reason behind it? We will get in the next slide. Increasing the thickness of plastic carry bags from 40 to 50 and the stipulation of 50 micron thickness for plastic sheets is likely to increase the cost by about 20%. If you are increasing the thickness by 10 microns, that means you are going to add some more money.
Yes.
If you are adding more money, it will create counterproductive for the manufacturers and automatically they will demotivate from these stipulations. Hence the tendency to provide free carry bags will come down, because if you visit the shops you will get one free carry bags. If there is a lot of cost involved in the carry bags, obviously manufacturers or the provider will think twice or thrice that we should not give the carry bags because it involves a lot of cost.
Yes.
First one. Thin plastics have fewer incentives for rag pickers and hence less chance to get recycled. As I told you in my previous module also, like whatever multi-layered plastics, while picking the multi-layered plastics, rag pickers think twice or thrice that yes, we should not pick this because it involves loss of it involves no money, no profit. Similarly, thin plastic have no incentives or rare incentives for rag pickers and hence less chance to be recycled, and that's why huge garbage can be seen in the form of 40 microns plastics or 50 microns plastics. Collection of plastic bag by the rag pickers will increase to some extent if the thickness of plastic is increased. If we increase the thickness, rag pickers will be incentivized and they may pick the plastic sheets, because now the thickness of the plastic has been increased. That's why rag pickers can collect that plastic for a particular plastics. Because if you have a more thickness of plastic, it will create some money. It will create some profits.
Yes.
Thin plastic bags having thickness below 14 microns are difficult to collect and manage and also to recycle. So if you have plastic sheets which is having less than 40 microns, it is a very difficult to manage because it will not involve any profits. So if you don't have any economic viability, why you will do such work? That's why the government of India is thinking that yes, we must increase the thickness of plastics from 40 to 50 microns. Now we will see the second features of Plastic waste management rules 2016. Second one is your wider jurisdiction. Rural areas are also covered under this ambit. I told you 2011 pertains to your municipal areas only, and this times you will get this times rural areas, urban areas, other areas are also included in this your rules and regulations. First one is your expanding the jurisdiction of applicability from the municipal areas to the rural areas, because plastic has reached rural areas also. Even we can see in the rural areas also. If you go and visit the shops, you will get one carry bags of 40 microns. So that's why the peoples are very fond of using such kind of plastics. So that's why this rule is also extended to your rural areas. Number one. Second, the rules which were previously applicable to municipal areas have now been extended to all villages also. Third one is here, responsibility for implementation of the rule is given to the Gram Panchayat. It shows the decentralization process also. Gram Panchayat is the sole authority which decides many things, and in this case also Gram Panchayat plays a pivotal role in deciding what should be used, 40 microns, 50 microns, whatever we have in our plastic rules, management rules. Third one is here, more responsibility to producers and generators of waste. Extended producer responsibility. Yes, I told you in previous class. Extended producer responsibility means, yes, you are producer, you are producing the plastic bags and other things, but it is your responsibility that you should recycle everything. If you will not recycle everything, I will charge some penny on you, because you are the responsible one who are creating lot of garbage in the society, in this environment. That's why extended producer responsibility is one of the inherent part of this 2016 rules. So bringing in the responsibility of producer and generator in plastic waste management and introducing collect bag system of plastic waste by the producer brand owners as per the extended producer responsibility. What does it mean? It means that if you are producing, yes, it is your duty to manage and recycle whatever you have produced. First one, for that you should allocate some areas so that you can execute some plants where recycle can be done. Yes. Extended producer responsibility. In the field of waste management, extended producer responsibility is a policy approach under which producers are given a significant responsibility, financial or physical, for the treatment or disposal of post-consumer products. Yes, post-consumer products means after having tea, after having cold drinks, whatever waste you have generated, maybe in the form of bottles, maybe in the form of plastics, it is a responsibility of producers that it must be collected back and recycled back, so that the liability on the environment could be reduced drastically. Yes. And for that, rag pickers once again play a very, very vital role in this case. Second one, extended producer responsibility is an environment protection strategy to achieve the objective of a decreased total environment impact of a product by making the manufacturer of the product responsible for the entire life cycle chain of the product, especially for the take back, recycling and final disposal. Yes, whatever I have told you as written in the second point. Very, very simple to understand. Now we will see the key features. Fourth point, penalties. If you are not following the extended producer responsibility, if you are not following the 40 to 50 microns, if you are not following any other rules pertains to your 2016 plastic waste management rules, you are supposed to go through many penalties, and it may be the rules also have the provision to fine retailers and street vendors who provide their products in plastic packaging which do not conform to the new rules. If any shopkeepers, if any vendors like Thelawala, if they are giving the carry bags or plastic bags which do not conform with the existing rules, they are liable to be dragged under the punishment as per the rules. Yes. First one. Second is segregation at source. Yes, I told you at that time also, if you are producing, it must be duty of the municipal corporation, it must be duty of the municipal authority that try to segregate at the source. If this house is producing some waste materials in the form of plastics, it is a duty of municipal authority that it must be segregated at the source, that so that the dirt products or the garbage should not go further in other areas. So it is a responsibility of municipal authority to segregate at the source and try to convert into the compost or manure, so that it can be used in agricultural field also. And for that, Ministry of Agriculture should be also take care of this, so that the whatever manure or compost or your fertilizer which has been produced from the garbage can be used in a agriculture field without having too much on the soil fertility. Correct? Individuals and bulk waste generators like office, commercial establishment, industries are to segregate the plastic waste at source and should hand over the segregated waste and pay user fee as per the rules of local bodies. Yes, and you can add whatever point I have told you. That was actually belong to the previous modules. Correct? So it is a responsibility of individual bulk waste generators like office, commercial establishment, industry, that they are supposed to segregate the plastic at source where it is actually producing, number one, and should hand over to the municipal corporation or municipal authority, so that they can process and can create into the valuable assets, and that can be used on our agricultural fields. And for that they must levy some fees, so that economic viability can be seen. Sixth point, management at source. Persons organizing public events like marriage, public gatherings are responsible for the management of waste generated during these events. If any event is attending by 100 or more than 100 persons, it is the responsibility of the event manager. Yes, whatever food or whatever things we have generated in this occasion, it is our responsibility to segregate at the source, and it must be informed to the municipal authority. Correct? The person organizing public events like marriages, public gatherings are responsible for the management of waste generated during these events or occasions. Seventh one, recycling and gainful utilization. The rules promote use of plastic waste for road construction as per the Indian Road Congress guidelines or conversion of plastic waste to fuel. I told you polyblend. Yes, whatever waste we have in the form of plastics, that can be converted into the polyblend, and the polyblend can be used on the roads, construction of the roads, and the roads will become a very, very porous free roads, and it will absorb the water body nicely as compared to our traditional roads structure. And we can see in the Paris also. Yes, in Paris we have a lot of good road infrastructure, and that has been made from the plastic waste. Yes. So we should also think that kind of roads, and it is a really very, very important matter, because if you see the roads, contractors are involving means year by year. Yes. And if one road is being constructed by contractor, it is not good, it is not fair. Again contractor will come, or again they will charge money, and again they will make the same roads. What is the use of making roads again and again? If we give emphasis on the plastic road construction, it will be more far ahead as compared to the traditional style of road structure. So in the process of creating garbage, we should promote the plastic road construction. That will be the better one for environment also. Now we'll see we have completed the plastic waste management rules 2016. Now we'll see the hazardous waste. Any substances that causes damage to public health is called your hazardous waste. Any dangerous waste that exhibit any one or more of the following characteristics: toxicity, if it has a poisonous nature, that means it is a hazardous waste. It is a reactivity, if one chemical mixed with other chemical and it creates a nonsense effect on the environment, it is your hazardous waste. Corrosivity means having layer because of the oxidation process. Corrosivity, radioactivity, ignitability. What is it mean by ignitability? If it catches fires, it will prove counterproductive in the environment. Yes, sodium type or other chemicals. We know there are a lot of chemicals which can catch the fires easily. So any hazardous materials or hazardous substances which are capable enough to catch fire, they are actually categorized under the hazardous waste. Ministry of Information and Forest defines hazardous. However, there is a one proper definition given by the Ministry of Environment and Forest, that hazardous waste as any waste which due to its physical, chemical or biological composition is likely to harm health or environment. If any waste by virtue of physical, chemical and or biological composition which can impact environment or health, that can be categorized as a hazardous waste. Various industries in India such as petrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, fertilizer, etc. produce hazardous waste in considerable quantity, as we know that. From petrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, yes, pharmaceuticals we can trace the use of syringe, yes, many waste, chemicals, fertilizer, they all are your hazardous waste. Hospital also generate hazardous waste, that's why municipal authorities have full power to levy some taxes, because they are creating a lot of hazardous waste. Municipal authorities should have some fees so that they can do some arrangement for them and their waste can be disposed in a very safe or nice manner. The hospitals also generate hazardous waste that contain disinfectants, pathogens, harmful chemicals, etc. So hospital or medical waste is also considered to be very, very hazardous. The use of incinerators is very important for the disposal of hospital waste. Incinerator means that can be converted into the lesser harmful products. Yes, Ramananji, if I am correct, that could be transformed into the lesser harmful products and that can be disposed easily. So for that, municipal authorities have a power, has an authority to levy some taxes on the establishment like hospital which are generating lot of your biomedical or other wastes. Now we will see the Basel Convention. Basel Conventions are very, very important for our environment because it essentially deals with the waste products or waste materials which have been generated by the many sources. You see the objective of the Basel Convention. This was designed to reduce the movements of hazardous waste between the nations, especially from the developed nation to the less development nation. What does it mean? If you see the history, Ramananji, if you see the history, we found that many of the developed countries actually were being practiced. They had been practiced to give their waste products to the least developing countries, and least developing countries dispose in their areas without having much knowledge, and that's why it creating a lot of havoc on the environment. And for this less developed countries are receiving lot of funds from there, and they run the economy. But the disposal in such a fashion is also very harmful for the transporting nations. So that's why there is a Basel Convention. Basel Convention pertains to your Switzerland. Basel norms, yes, Switzerland. It says essentially that whatever waste products which are generated and transported to the other nation, that must be disposed in a very clean manner. And it is a duty of the nation which are transporting the products to the other parts. It must provide the reliable information to that particular nations. Yes, these are very hazardous materials. I am sending you knowingly, and you have to dispose it very carefully. But whatever practice in the past that happened was happened due to the mischief of the developed countries. Mischief. You know mischief? Majak masti. And that's why it created a lot of problems on the environment. See, second, India is also party to the Basel Convention. Main goal is to prevent transfer of hazardous waste from developed to the less developed countries, whatever I told you. It does not address the movement of radioactive waste. One's not supposed to promote the movement of radioactive waste, because radioactive waste is very, very harmful on the health of human being. Waste such as mercury containing waste, e-waste, asbestos, etc. are recognized by the convention as a hazardous waste. So there is a provision on the movement of such hazardous waste. It must not transport from one developed country to the developing country. 182 states and the European Union are the parties to this convention. Yes, whenever such happens, all the countries should work as a watchdog. Yes, Ramananji? It is a Basel Convention. Now we'll see the second one, Rotterdam Convention. Very important convention pertains to your waste disposal. Rotterdam Convention on the prior informed consent procedure for certain hazardous chemicals and pesticides in international trade. What does it mean? If I am sending the waste materials, it is a prior informed consent. Yes, my waste materials can create such problems also. I am sending willingly. You have to accept willingly. You have to accept by attentiveness. And yes, it is going to create some problems. If you are accepting my waste, dispose it nicely. That's why it is a prior informed consent procedure for certain hazardous chemicals and pesticides which are famous in your international trade. Multilateral treaty to promote shared responsibility in relation to the importation of hazardous chemicals. If one country is importing chemicals from the other countries, it is not responsibility of only importing country. It is a responsibility of all the countries which are being the part of Rotterdam Convention. If one country is importing some chemicals from the other country, it is a responsibility of both the countries as well as the party signatory countries of this convention.
Yes.
Number 2, India is also party to this Rotterdam Convention. What is the objective of this convention? The convention promotes open exchange of information, correct, and calls on exporter and producer of hazardous chemicals to use proper labeling. Yes, there must be proper labeling. There must be some standards how much it is going to create a problems in the environment. Safe handling and inform purchaser of any dangers. If yes, importing countries import some products from chemicals from the other countries, she should have knowledge how much it is going to create some problems on the environment. That's why inform purchaser of any kind of dangers. Signatory nations can decide whether to allow or ban the importation of the chemicals listed in this treaty, and exporting countries are obliged to make sure that producer within their jurisdiction comply. If I am sending, that means it must be consistent with my national laws. It should not be beyond my national laws, and it should be it should be dispatched in a very judicious manner, so that negative environment should not be created. Now we'll see the third one, that is a persistent organic pollutants. In my last lecture I told you that persistent organic pollutant means, organic means yes, it can be decomposed easily, but persistent means if we are decomposing, it creates a problems, and after many steps, then it can be decomposed. That means in a first or second or third or a fourth, it creates a problems to decompose. That's why it is called persistent, means continuous organic pollutant. It can have lasting effect on environment also. Example, if you see, persistent organic pollutants, POPs, are the organic compounds that resist environmental breakdown. Yes, some taking as long as century to degrade. Yes, it is going to decompose, but it is not going to decompose easily. Organic pollutant is known for their decomposition, but persistent organic pollutant means it creates some resistance to the environment. It will decompose after 1 century or 2 century, but in between it creates a problems. Harmful effects of persistent organic pollutant. Number 1 is highly toxic to human being and your wildlife. Second one is they can last for many years in the environment before degrading into less dangerous form. Yes, I told you, they accumulate in the food chain, and you know, if they accumulate in the food chain, it creates a problem. Correct? They enter into the body of organism from the environment and they get concentrated in the fatty tissues of organisms. They are transported over large distance through air and water and can be found worldwide. Because it becomes a part of food chain. POPs therefore can be found globally even in the areas such as the Arctic and Antarctic, far from the source. Even we can trace this POP in the Arctic or Antarctic region because it is a part of cycle, the food chain. So if it becomes the food chain, we can trace these things in the most far away areas like Arctic and Antarctic also. POPs therefore can be globally even in areas such as the Arctic and Antarctic far from their sources. Although many countries have banned these chemicals, they are produced or used illegally, or because of lengthy lives they continue to exist in the environment. But yes, most of the countries are using these POPs because of some applications, but these are creating lot of problems on the environment, even far away from the areas which are not actually linked with the sources of that particular pollutants, but however creating a lot of problems. See, now we'll see the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants. Very important convention. The Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants is a global treaty to protect human health and the environment from POPs. Correct? Your persistent organic pollutants. Given their long range transport, no one government acting alone can protect. Yes, obviously, because its ranges is so vast. No, if we are getting POP in Arctic, Antarctic, and if only one country is contributing, how can it become a success to control POPs? So all the countries must come together and join the hands to control such kind of problems, such kind of pollutants. So given their long range transport, because of the various economic commercial demand, no one government acting alone can protect citizens or environment from POPs. In response to this global problem, the Stockholm Convention, which was signed in 2001 and entered into force in 2004, it was actually, we can trace this convention from 2001 and it came into force in 2004, and it requires its parties to take measures to eliminate or reduce the release of POPs into the environment. That's why we have such convention. The main provisions of such a convention, that is your Stockholm Convention, is first one, the convention requires each party means who are the signatory of this convention, prohibit or eliminate the products and use as well as import and export of the POP which are listed in Annex 1. Annex 1 means what? List. We have Annex 1, Annex B, Annex C, Annex CD. Likewise, in Annex 1 there must be some chemicals, there must be a POPs which are very hazardous. In Annex B we have a chemicals which could be less hazardous as compared to the list 1, list A, and similarly we will find D and E and F. So if you see, so far Annex A is concerned, there must be a total prohibit or eliminate the production and use as well as import and export of the POPs which are under the Annex A. Number 1, Annex A allows for the registration of specific exemption for the production or use of listed POPs. If there are some POPs, persistent organic pollutant, if there are some POPs which are actually needed, yes, we are needed lot of chemicals for our lab research also, for other purpose also, which are actually very harmful in the environment, but we require it. So if you want to make some chemicals, if you want to make some organic pollutants which are listed in Annex A, we can do it, but we should do in a very safe manners. We have to do in a very limited or safe manners. Annex A allows for the registration of a specific exemption for the production or use of the listed POPs. The import and export of chemicals listed in Annex A can take place. Yes, it can take place, but under some restrictive conditions. It must be disposed in this manner. You have to carry from this manner. Yes, police will be there who can inspect your transportation or your importation. So there can be a supply of chemicals which are listed in your Annex A, but very tough conditions. You have very tough conditions. Second one is the restrict the production and use as well as the import and export of the POPs that are listed in your Annex B. Annex B allow for the registration of acceptable purpose for the production and use of the listed POPs. The import and export of chemicals listed in Annex B can take place under same rules under specific restricted conditions. So it is it has very less restrictive condition as compared to the Annex B, Annex A. So we can produce some chemicals in the same manner whatever we are producing in the Annex A, but it has less restriction as compared to the first one. Reduce or eliminate release of POPs that are listed in Annex C. But if you have some chemicals which are under the sea, yes, we have to reduce or eliminate. You should not produce POPs which are listed in sea, but it can be produced on certain grounds, under certain conditions. What does it mean? If you see the whole conditions, and whether Annex A, Annex B, Annex C, they are very strong protocols. We can produce it, we can use it, we can import or export, but under some restrictive conditions. That's it. We have completed the environment.